Hi, it's Glenn. We're back at the Village Inn here, and I've got a very special guest today. He's taken some time out from his holiday, and he's one of Australia's most successful racing exports. He's won 6 Hong Kong jockey titles. He's won 42 Group 1 winners, and for the owners he's ridden, he's returned them a staggering 400 million in prize money. As I say, he's back in Sydney for his time off. Welcome to Zac. Hey, mate.
Good to be here.
How's it going?
Good.
Thanks for coming in. Busy time. You're off back to Hong Kong soon, aren't you?
Yeah, I go tomorrow night, so just back here for a couple of weeks. We went to Hawaii first, had a nice warm holiday there, got in the surf, did
You surf?
did everything properly there. Oh, I don't surf, but in Hawaii I do, right? You get on a longboard, they're just like a big canoe.
You missed the fires?
I did, yeah. So
Wow.
I think they started 3 or 4 days or something after we left, but the fires were on a different island.
Typical you. Luck follows you everywhere.
Exactly. But if I was there when the fires were there, then of course we would have copped some smoke and things like that. It wouldn't have been as enjoyable. So it's sad to see, really, and it's surprising that they got caught up like they did.
Yeah, it is. It's really sad. But how long have you been in Hong Kong now?
16 years.
16.
Yeah.
Because I don't know if you remember this. I first met you when I first came to Australia back in 2000. You were an apprentice in Brisbane.
Okay.
And looking through your stats, there's one racetrack up there you've never ridden a winner at.
Okay.
Kilcoy.
I went through the outside fence.
Went through the outside fence and broke your leg.
I did, and it was a pickup ride. So Matthew Dracos was meant to. They rung for him to ride. There was whoever was meant to ride it couldn't ride on the day they were sick, and Matthew Dracos was at my house on my lounge asleep, and his phone rung. So my mate answered the phone, and the trainer asked if Dracos could ride the horse, and he said, he's not here. He said, but I got Zac Purton. He said, he'll ride it for you. So we were all laughing, thinking, we've got the ride off him. Anyway, it was a 2,000 metre race. So they start at the half mile and they come into the straight, go around past the winning post and do another lap. And as it went past the winning post the first time, it's basically a 45-degree turn. And the horse locked its jaw, went straight through the outside fence.
I was there.
And I ended up breaking my ankle. So
I was there riding for Bruce McLaughlin, and the Kilcoy track would probably fit inside this little room here, and I'd never seen anything like it. The first race, I think I saw a jockey went around the home turn, went through the outside fence.
Yeah, correct.
The next race, it was, I think, Ken Pope.
Yep.
The next race, you went through, your horse didn't corner, you went into the cow paddock on the other side and broke your leg, and I'm thinking, oh my God, what am I doing here?
Yeah, yeah.
But I don't know if you remember that, because you and Mickey Rudd were apprentices at that stage.
Yeah, we were both fighting out the premierships
Yeah.
at that stage. He won 1 year and I won the next year, I think.
And then the year that you won, you then quickly left Queensland and went to Sydney.
Yeah, not long after that. I think I might have stayed another season in Queensland, but I was getting a lot of pressure to come to Sydney, and of course I was flying. Michael and myself were flying down here for all the carnivals, so we were on a plane sort of every week there at some stages to come down, and I just thought, I'm getting a bit of support. Things are going all right, so I'll go down and give it a go.
I want to ask you about that, because you won it seems something in your careers. There's a similarity. So you left Brisbane to come down to Sydney, and your first 3 seasons in Sydney, in 2003 and 2004, you rode 8 winners in the city. The next season you rode 11 winners, and the next season you rode 11 winners. Season after that, you ran second in the premiership with 72. What happened? How did you get from 11 winners to 72? What? Obviously, we know what a driven person you are. Those that know you are. So what? How did you go from? I mean, that's a huge jump.
It is a huge jump, but I was based in Queensland for those times. So that's when
Okay.
I was flying down with Michael from Queensland to ride at the carnivals. So we were sort of picking when we would come down to ride certain horses. So I'd come down one weekend, win on a horse, go back, wait until it was racing again a couple of weeks later. So that's why I only had those small amount of winners. And then when I went to 70, that was when I made the move.
Okay.
And permanently based
And
myself
you were riding a lot for Gay?
So I come here freelance to start with. She was the one that encouraged me to come down. But I was freelancing and I was enjoying that. And then after about 6 months, she grabbed me in and Huey at the same time, so to be her main riders. So we both only lasted about a year, and then we both stepped out and did our own thing again. I just couldn't handle her. Mentally, she was
domineering.
She was too challenging for me.
Did you have any blues? Did you have any blues with her?
I did, yeah. We had a massive blue. That's how it ended. So I turned up at Randwick one morning, and I was a little bit hungover, and she She asked me to wait after everyone had finished, and then she was just into me, and I thought, I'm not going to cop this. So we went at it, and that was it.
Did she use you again after?
I won the Epsom for her only a couple of months later.
Physio,
because
wasn't it?
I'd gone to Hong Kong, and then she'd asked me to come back to ride the horse. So yeah, and I don't know if I had too many rides for her since.
So then when you went to Hong Kong as well, something similar. Your first few years there, first year you rode 43 winners, then 48, then 53, and then you rode 64. Those are the first 4 seasons there. Then in 2013 you rode 88 winners, and then you won the premiership with 112, and you knocked Dougie Whyte off his perch, which was a very, very difficult thing to do because he was then like you are now, I suppose.
Yeah, and
totally
I remember
dominant.
when I went there, because you'd spent a bit of time there yourself, and Corey Brown said to me that you'd said to him, Douglas Whyte will never get beat. He's just got too much control.
Yeah.
And it was like that. He won 13 championships in a row. He could just pick whatever horse he wanted to ride. But I nearly beat him the season before. I think I might have ridden the fastest 50 in Hong Kong history the season before, and I had a little bit of a break on him. But as the season went on, his power and support he started to get on the back of me, and we were level.
How did you feel about that?
So what happened was, I think he was 2 winners in front of me with 3 weeks to go.
Yeah.
And I got kidney stones, and I had to go to hospital. And the operation didn't go that well. I ended up sort of getting gangrene and got really sick and delirious and had to be rushed back to hospital within the next 3 or 4 days. And I went from 2 winners behind to about 8 winners behind with 2 weeks to go.
You can't make that up.
And it was just all over.
Yeah.
And he come out at the end of that season, he said, I love a challenge and blah, 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 and all this sort of stuff. And I thought, well, that's not fair. You know, I was on the sideline. You got a free kick. But what it did was it motivated me.
Yeah.
To throw
so
everything
him
in.
saying what he said to you gave you a bit of a...
And I've still got the paper clipping in my drawer at home. And during that next season, so I come away that season, I just trained my ass off. I made sure I was really fit. I did a few other things, and I just went back focused. And all I wanted to do was win that championship. And every day, morning and night, I just thought about winning that championship. I just did everything I could. And then every time I thought like my motivation was sort of starting to wane a little bit, I'd get that article out and I'd read it again and fire myself back up. But I come back that season, and once again, I then rode the fastest 50 in Hong Kong history the next season. So I come out of the blocks firing.
Yeah.
But so we started our season in, I think it was the first or second Sunday in September at that stage. And then Joe Moreira come to Hong Kong towards the end of the middle or end of October. And then when he come with so much support because John Size had decided he wasn't going to use Douglas Whyte anymore, and he put Joe Moreira on everything, and Joe Moreira could ride the weights of every horse in Hong Kong. He could ride 113, which is the minimum. 133 was the top at that time. We had the 20-pound weight spread, whereas myself, I could only ride 120. So there's about 25% of horses in most races that I wasn't able to ride. And Douglas was the same. He could ride 115, so he'd ride the bottom weight and then ride it 2 pounds over. So they had that advantage on me. But Joe just come in with I've never seen the support given to a rider like it was given to him when he first arrived. So then Douglas was basically just out the back, and it was Joe and myself that ended up.
So, but that was towards Dougie's. Dougie was waning at that point, wasn't he?
He was waning, but that was just the knife. When John Size dropped him, and he was obviously getting to that age. Every athlete's got a shelf life, and he was just getting to the age where he might have been starting to miss the kick a little bit. He wasn't taking some runs he should have been taking. He wasn't finding the right positions. And when those things just start to go against you a little bit, and then you've lost your main stable, your confidence takes a little bit of a hit. And then he was just gone. From that point on, he didn't have the support and control that.
Yeah, I remember I went back once or twice in just to ride periodically and I could see the difference in Dougie. Like he could go from barrier 12, 14, and within 100 metres he'd be in the 1-1, which was his ideal spot. He always got those horses in that spot. But I think with competition like you and Joe, it's sort of as he was waning, getting a little bit older, new crop come through.
The younger, hungrier kids coming through.
You and Joe.
One thing that Douglas did was he generally rode the percentages.
Yeah.
He didn't take too many risks. Whereas Joe and myself, we sort of got the confidence to back ourselves to ride for a bit more luck. And I think that has has helped us get to the numbers that we got to. So the most winners he ever rode in a season, I think, was 112. I think it was 112 or 114.
Was that Dougie?
Yeah, Dougie. I think it might have been 112 because I rode 114 to
you beat
his
him.
record.
Yeah.
That's right. Whereas now, myself and Joe, like we're regularly riding 135 plus.
You were 178 last season, didn't you?
179. So I broke the record last season. Joe held it before that. He rode 170. I got to 179. We do have a few more race meetings now than what we did when Douglas was setting his record of 112. But if you go through to the number of meetings they had, whether it was 66 or whatever it was, by the time we got to that 66 meeting stage of the season, we were up past 130, 140. So even if the meeting was still, the amount of races was still at 66, we would have been smashing his record anyway.
So you got there and you deposed the king at that point, Dougie Whyte. So Joe, you've got rid of, now Joe's, I'm not saying you've got rid of Joe, but Joe's not riding in Hong Kong anymore.
Yeah.
You must have felt a little bit of a wind up your sail. And now, of course, Bowman's arrived. Obviously, Bowman's a really, really good jockey. He's obviously limited by the weight he can ride as well. Watching you and Joe compete year on year was, I must say, it was thrilling to watch, especially when it got down to the end of the season and you're both riding 3 and 4 winners occasionally all the time, especially you at the Valley and Joe going backwards and forwards in the log. But do you think there's going to be, I know you and Huey are mates as well, there's going to be great rivalry there too, isn't there?
The dynamics always change and every season presents new challenges. And I did, as mentally and physically draining as it was going head to head with Joe all the time, there were some fantastic moments within our careers, especially going for those championships. I remember one year we went to the races tied. There was maybe 1 or 2 weeks left in the season, and he came out and rode the first 3 winners.
Yeah. Then
I rode the next 2, and then he rode 1, and then I rode 2. So we won the first 8 races of the day, just going back, forward. And I remember the attention that grabbed throughout the world was spoken about.
I mean, it was amazing to watch. It really was. We'd sort of like get on the races, see who's riding winners. If you had missed the Happy Valley results, you'd be checking them in the morning. It was great to watch.
And then there were a couple of seasons as well where we come down to the last meeting. So not the season just gone because Joe had left, but the season before. We come down to the last meeting. I think I went into the last meeting either 1 in front or all square. And then I rode 4 winners in a row or something. And then obviously it went my way and he didn't ride a winner. But I remember being at the airport and he was spent, I was spent, because we were both pushing through injuries at that point in time. Like I've been injured for the last 3 years. It's just been horrible. I've had one thing after another. I've been really lucky in my career. I went such a long period of time just having small little niggles here and there. And then the last 3 years, I've been smashed up a bit.
What, from falls?
From falls, yeah. Broken bones, ligaments, all those sorts of things. And the ligaments are worse.
Yeah.
The muscles are worse. So I've had a really bad problem with my hip flexor the last sort of 18 months that I just haven't been able to get right. But Joe was the same. He was having a problem with his hip as well. So we were basically between every race meeting, we were spending all our time at the physios, patching ourselves up just to get to the next meeting.
Yeah.
And then would get ourselves through that one, have to go through it all again. And this was happening for months and months and months. So mentally and physically, we were at the airport. He was flying back to Brazil and I was going to Dubai. And it's like we were just empty.
Finished.
Nicole said she looked at both of us and we were just like staring
Drained.
into space, just drained. But that's what you do it for, because you push yourselves to those positions. But
were you guys mates?
So we used to sit next to each other.
Yeah.
At Sha Tin every Sunday. We were cordial. We used to play football together occasionally. We'd go for the odd lunch, things like that. I wouldn't say we're close mates, but we certainly had a respect for each other.
Yeah.
And we got along well. But like everyone, once those gates open, he doesn't do a favour to me and I don't do one to him.
That's what a lot of racing people that don't understand. Of course, the jocks are a close group of people, and you say some of them are your mates and some of them are just your colleagues. And you're all matey to each other. But as soon as those gates open, it's every man for himself.
Yeah, exactly. But you've got to have the respect for your fellow riders as well, because what we do is very dangerous, right?
Yeah.
So if you've got an issue with someone and you take that into a race, it's a very dangerous position to put yourself and someone else in.
I think it's fair to say very few jocks do.
No, you're right. You're right. I don't
think
see
very
it
few.
too often. I'll see it like every now and then when someone's really frustrated about something. They'll overstep the mark a little bit.
Yeah.
But the riding group as a whole will go and pull that person up
that's right.
and say, hey, that's out of line.
Yeah. You sort of self-govern yourselves, don't you?
You do. But yeah, so this season's going to be different with Huey coming. Brenton's coming as well. Huey's been to Hong Kong for the last sort of 6 or 8 years on and off, flies in, flies out. He's had a lot of success there, so they already know who he is.
Yeah.
He's already got his support base. He did well last season, and he's going to continue to do well.
Yeah, but he's obviously a little bit restricted with his weight.
He is, but the weights have gone up as well. So the minimum now is 115 is the minimum, 135 is the top.
Okay. So what's that? That's 62 kilos, top weight.
61.5, I think.
61.5.
Because 133 was 60.5. So 113 was 50.5 kilos, I think. So 51.5 now is the minimum. But previously you could only ride. So the way it works is if your horse is carrying 113, you're allowed to ride 2 pounds over. All the way up to 119, then you could ride at 1 pound over.
Up to 120.
At 120. But now they've lifted that
120
up to
pounds,
122.
That's what, 56, is it?
54.5.
But it's now gone to 55.5.
55.5.
Okay.
Yeah. So, and that helped me last season as well. I didn't have to ride as light as often as I was a previous season. And I felt completely different. Like I had more energy. I wasn't killing myself as much.
Just that extra kilo.
Just that extra kilo. Not having to ride 120. Because previously when the minimum was 113, I'd have to ride 126 out of the 8 meetings a month. And then last season, it was probably 2 to 3, maybe 4 meetings a month.
Yeah.
And that's a big difference.
So how what would you have to do to get your weight down to your minimum?
So
you've mentioned you've had kidney stones, so that's a direct result of
dehydration
and your lifestyle.
And lifestyle. So I've had to learn to change my diet. So there are certain things that you can eat that contribute to kidney stones.
Do they hurt when you pee them out?
Oh, yeah, they're not much fun, I tell you. They're awful little buggers. But the technology has changed now. At the time when I first had the kidney stone, it's probably going to be a little bit gross speaking about this, right? But the operation I had was, obviously they put you to sleep, right? But they go in through the eye of your penis and go up all the way through your urethra up to where it's stuck in, like, because your kidneys are sort of, let's just say the kidneys are up here, and then you've got tubes that come down to your bladder, and then you piss everything out. So the tubes that come down are really, really fine, and the kidney stones are like porous rocks. Like they're sharp enough to cut glass. So when they get stuck in there, they're basically cutting you as they're coming down, so you get the blood and you get the pain. So they've got to go in there with a laser and a light, and they've got to break it down. And they break it down into smaller pieces so it can pass through, and then you still got to piss them out. So the first time he lasered my tubes, and that caused the inflammation, and then nothing could come out of my kidney. So everything was stuck in there, and that's when I got the gangrene. But what they meant to do was put a stent in there to help that flow through. But because I was a jockey, he said, I won't put the stent in there because it might affect you and you won't be able to ride. Well, that was the mistake that we made. So then he had to go back in and put the stent in after that.
And it fixed it.
And to clear everything up. But then riding with the stent in there, you know, it scratches, it irritates, it's not much fun. But and then...
Did you wet yourself much?
No, no. But the technology they use these days is like a shockwave. So it's like a big heat lamp. Once again, you get knocked out, you lie down on it, and the laser basically finds the stone and breaks it down, and then you pass it out. So it's a lot.
So you still suffer with him?
So I had 4 kidney stones in 5 years through that period, and thankfully I haven't had another kidney stone for about 6 or 7 years now. But I drink a lot more water these days. I try and be very mindful of that. Some of the foods, like even coffee, not because the coffee dehydrates you and the caffeine in it, chocolate, coca, berries, spinach, nuts.
You're not going to have much fun when you retire.
No. Well, I'll be able to drink a lot more water when I retire, so I think I'll be fine. So I've just got to manage that. But I changed my diet about 6 or 7 years ago. I went to more of a plant-based diet, and I was purely plant-based for about 3 years. And I felt amazing. My weight was unbelievable. I had a lot of energy.
What, a vegan?
Basically a vegan, yeah.
Yeah.
And then I went away one off-season, and the people we were with, I was like, I'll just try that, and I'll just try that. And now I'm probably 85% plant-based, 15% I'll just eat whatever. Because as you know, in Hong Kong, it's a very social place.
Yeah, you've got to go out with
the owners.
You've got to go out
with the owners all the time. It's really hard to stay on that diet.
And food's a big part of their culture, isn't it?
It is. Yeah, just socialising is a big part of their culture. So when I go out for dinner with the owners, I will eat whatever is there, and obviously just in smaller portions. But when we're at home, I'm still on that plant-based diet.
So you mentioned going out with the owners. That's a big part of a jockey's rise to success, is having an affiliation with owners, because it's a different setup to Australia, where you're actually not encouraged, but you're expected to go out and socialise and build your network of owners that you ride for. And as a jockey, you can actually, if you have an association with an owner, that owner tells the trainer to put you on the horse. And when you're starting out there, that's how you gather momentum, isn't it?
It is. So I had a couple of problems when I first arrived there. One, you're used to the way things are done in Australia. You have a manager, he basically books your barrier trials, your race rides, he liaises with the riding agents and the trainers, and you basically just turn up on race day and do your job. Yeah. So I had to learn how to run my business more efficiently over there. But also when I first arrived, the roster of jockeys I was up against, they were the who's who of jockeys from around the world. We had Douglas Whyte, Brett Preble, Olivier Deleuze, Gerald Mosse, Eric Saint Martin, Anthony Delpeche, Shane Dye, Danny Nikolic, and Darren Beeman.
Was Felix riding?
Felix was still riding. Yeah. Felix Gutzi, Glenn Boss, Kevin Shea, and Darren Beeman arrived a few weeks after me. So here I am arriving as a 23-year-old kid that no one really knows about. And I'm up against all these jockeys that were well established, had been there for 10 years, 15 years, had the connections with the owners, had the connections with the trainers. So why are they going to put me on over someone who they've got a relationship
So what
with,
did you do?
who has delivered for them? So I had to work it out. I was like, all right, so what does Douglas Whyte do? And then I found out that, he socialises with the owners, he goes out, and all the jockeys have to do that. So then I also found out that you need to be more proactive in chasing rides. I used to just sit there and wait for my phone to ring. Mm-hmm. Well, they're not going to ring me when they've got all these other jockeys chasing them for rides all the time. And they were saying to me that we want to put you on, but we want you to show us that you want to ride our horses. Yeah. So you need to ask to ride the horses. And if you ask, then of course we'll give you some opportunities. So it just took me a long time to work all that out.
It's like I always tell Chad, there's two ways to look at it. If you don't ask, it's definitely no.
Yeah.
If you do ask, you still might get a no, but you've got a chance of getting a yes.
Exactly. And people think that I just ring up and get on whatever horse I want, which is totally incorrect. After a race meeting, I might ask to ride 10 horses. I'll be lucky to get one. Like, people think I just pick up the phone and I get it. I've got to work hard. Like, I'm working really hard all the time.
And if you're not working hard, someone below you is working maybe twice as hard.
Exactly.
Doing what you were doing.
Yeah.
When you're at the top, there's only one place to go, isn't there?
Exactly. Yeah.
So you got to really do everything you can to keep ahead of the pack.
And then, like, speaking about the owners, they have so much control in Hong Kong. All they have to do to change from one stable to the next stable is sign a piece of paper, put it in, and the trainer goes around with a head collar, picks it up out of that box and takes it to his. Now, the problem that poses is it takes a lot of the power away from the trainers. Yeah. Because if an owner says, I want Glyn to ride my horse, and the trainer says, no, Chad's going to ride it because he rode it last time, and you get beat on it,
the horse moves.
The horse moves.
Yeah.
So if the owner says he wants a jockey, 9 times out of 10,
that's a valuable tool to learn or have in your mind as a jock, that you actually have a lot more power than you ever had where you've come from, or especially Australia.
Yeah, exactly, and especially if you have the relationship with the owner, you just say, okay, I'll ride this horse this time. And don't worry, I've got owners all the time asking me to ride their horses, and politically it's really, really hard to keep all the owners and all the trainers happy. Yeah. If you've got a Class 4,000 metre horse, there might only be 2, maximum 3 Class 4,000 metre races a month. And you've got to be on the right horse that's rated well, that's in form, that's ready to win. I can't just be riding a horse for an owner because I have a relationship with him. So, I've got to say, well, I've already got a ride, or I don't think your horse is rated well enough, he's not in good enough form. When he does show something, then, and if I'm free and available, then I'll try and fit him in.
So your diplomacy skills are really, really well honed, aren't they?
It's hard, don't worry, it ebbs and flows.
So how does that differentiate? Because you come back and ride in the carnivals here. Yeah. And I thought at some point you were spending a little bit more time coming back here, and it was almost like there was a transition of maybe you're trying to test the waters to maybe if you were going to come back, or maybe just ride the carnivals and Hong Kong and do a bit of both. Obviously, you have a lot of success when you come back. I think you won the Guineas last year when you came back at Randwick.
Yeah, I think it was
You had a
The
couple
Canterbury
of
Stakes, the
yeah,
Guineas,
you had
and
a,
something
yeah,
else.
you had a couple of good ones.
Yeah.
J Max
Yeah.
knows how to join. You and Moreira came back and won all the Group Ones, and J Mac thought he was the kingpin here at that point. Are you thinking of coming back any time? Because you're only 40?
40.
You're
Yeah.
only you got another at least 5 years of prime riding.
So 10 years ago, I decided I was going to retire when I was 40. That was my plan.
Comes around quick, doesn't it?
And it's come around quick.
Yeah.
And Nicole was happy to do that. But when Moreira left Hong Kong, it just left such a void. And things were going so well that Nicole said, why don't you just stay a little bit longer and take advantage of the position you're in and the opportunity you've got. She loves Hong Kong. The kids were born there. They don't know any different. They like it there as well. And we'd been renovating the house in preparation for coming back home. The kids were booked into school. So we'd set everything up to come home. And then, mentally and physically, I'd push myself to that moment last December. And then she's asked me to go on, and I was just like, and I turned 40 in January. And
how'd you feel about that?
No, I had a midlife crisis.
When I turned 40 a long time ago, a mate of mine said to me, he said, every birthday you have from this point on, you're going to wish you were 40 again.
Really?
Well, you get to 41.
Yeah.
When you get to 50, you certainly wish you were 40 again.
So my scales at home have my name on it and my age on it when I step on them. So when I was going through my 30s and I was looking at the 3, I was okay. But the day I turned 40 and the 4 come up,
yeah,
I spiraled out of control. And I couldn't handle it. Nicole and the kids were actually back here in Australia at the time. And it's the first time and the only time I've ever done it. I sort of rang her up after a bit and I said, you gotta, because they were back here just for the holidays, as kids had school holidays. I said, you gotta come back home. I said, I can't handle being 40. It's doing my head in.
People used to think that jockeys, when they got to 40, they were finished.
Yeah.
It's so far from the truth. You're actually reaching your peak.
Well, they say now a lot of the jockeys are, like you say, hitting their peak at 40. Yeah. So anyway, the position I'm in now was okay. All right, I've done 16 years in Hong Kong. We've had a lot of success there. It's been really, really good for us. Do we want to come back home and be closer to our family and continue riding back here, or do we want to stay in Hong Kong and just keep doing what we do, right? So we had to weigh everything up, and then I come back here and obviously had the success, and I had some trainers offering me a lot of support, some syndicates, some studs, things like that. So I then had to decide whether, to come back to Australia, financially I was going to have to take a big pay cut, right? The tax here is high.
Yeah,
I'd have to work harder. Going to track work, going to all the barrier trials, travelling a lot more, travelling interstate. Whereas in Hong Kong, we've got a very easy lifestyle. We live on the race course. I walk to track work. We have a couple of barrier trial sessions every week at Sha Tin, very easy. And then the 2 race meetings a week. I call myself a part-time jockey. And outside of that, you've got the luxury of being able to have a normal life as well as being able to be a jockey. So you can go for lunch, you can go for dinner, you can play golf. You've got all the family time. And I was talking to Huey about how he felt being in Hong Kong compared to Australia. I was talking to J-Mac about what life in Australia was like for him. And then when we weighed it all up, we just thought, and we're in, as documented, I was sort of in discussion with the Jockey Club in Hong Kong at that time as well, because I got everyone in Australia wanting me to come here, and then I've got them wanting me to stay there a little bit longer. So
you're in a favourable position where you're not playing one against the other, but of course you're going to negotiate a good deal for yourself, I'm sure.
Just trying to work out what's going to be better suited to what we want to do, right? And then the Jockey Club, and it's not a Zac Purton rule, and I've said this, that they're going to allow the jockeys to travel more frequently, whereas previously their view on things were that if you're a jockey in Hong Kong and you're contracted in Hong Kong, there's a race meeting in Hong Kong, there's a barrier trial in Hong Kong, you have to be there. They don't allow you to miss any of that. And that is very restrictive. So a lot of the jockeys from around the world think that, you're locked up like you're in jail. And to some degree, it does feel like that. Like, they demand so much and expect so much from you. It's a great opportunity being there. But they basically had us glued down and we couldn't go anywhere. So now they're going to be more flexible. And that's one of the reasons that Huey went over there as well. And they're going to allow us to travel more frequently if we want to. And they've also said if I want to go to Japan for 2 months and ride there, I can do that, then I can come back. So I'm not sure what the future is going to look like.
But for now, you're going back to Hong Kong, and you're gonna do everything you can to keep your title.
I'm committed
Yeah.
to Hong Kong.
Yeah.
You know, obviously every season,
So
I
what?
like to try and ride 100 winners. I think that's the mark of a successful season. There's only been 3 jockeys in Hong Kong racing history ride 100 or more winners in a season.
That's you.
So myself and
Dougie.
Douglas. Yeah.
Did Tony Cruz do it? No.
No.
That's right.
So-
Dougie was the first jockey to do it.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
when you think about all the great jockeys that have been there, you know, getting to 100 illustrates how successful that
You're
is.
one of only 3 jockeys to have won all 4 international races as well.
And I'm the only one to win them twice.
Ah,
Yeah, and I hold the record for the most international
Wins.
races won as well.
Yeah.
And in my time there, I'm the only jockey to win the Vars on a locally trained horse. That hadn't been done for 25 years or something.
wow.
So, because our horses are mainly sprinter milers.
The Vars
we
is
get them out
2400,
to
isn't it?
2,000 metres, and the Vars is 2,400. So, we don't really have horses to compete with the internationals when they come in. So, yeah.
So not many people know this. You are married to Jimmy Cassidy's daughter.
Yep.
So I'm sure when you first went over there, or when you first came to Sydney, he was someone that might have helped you guide, but you've certainly carved your own way. This season in Hong Kong, you got any headline horses you're looking forward to riding again?
Yeah, obviously Lucky Swain S.
Yeah.
His rise the last 6 months has been, unbelievable, really. It was only about this time last year he was still in Class 1, and he only had his first start a few months before that. And I thought he was, when I first rode him, because Alex Lai gave him his first barrier trial, and I seen it, and I thought, he looks all right, I'll jump on him. But he never gave me a feel. He was just one of those horses, he's lazy in the mornings, you had to ask him to do everything. He never felt like a good horse, but he just sort of kept winning. And then he's just got better and better. He's not straightforward for a sprinter. Like, he's sluggish out the gates. He can stand there and miss it a little bit. He can't take the right spot comfortably. You've really got to be on your game, and he's got to be sharp enough to get a spot. Otherwise, he misses start and gets shuffled back, and obviously it becomes a bit complicated. But he's getting better as time goes on. But he's just getting stronger and more confident. And obviously, when they keep winning, the horses get confident. But the way he travels into a race now, and the way he puts them away, he's an impressive horse. So I'm looking forward to riding him.
Yeah.
Beauty Eternal, who I rode in the Derby this year. I thought he'd win the Derby. He won, I think it was 6 out of his 7 starts going into the Derby, and all very comfortably, very easily.
What beat him in the Derby?
What's that, sorry?
What beat him in the Derby?
Maybe the distance.
Yeah.
It's either one or two things. So, unfortunately, he's a bit of a difficult horse to ride, and I was meant to ride him on International Day, and then he had a sore foot, so he missed that run. And then a couple of weeks later, he was in, and he dumped me going to the gates. He dropped his head and threw me, and he got loose, so he missed that run again. And then we're racing against time to get his rating up to be able to get into the Derby. So he had time to test him at a distance. So he ran over 1,200, then next start 14, next start a mile, and then he had to go to the Derby at 2,000 metres. It's really, really difficult for a horse to continue to progress up in distance like that as he's going up in class as well. But he had the perfect run. They went slow in the race, so it should have helped him run the distance. He only got beat ahead. It wasn't far at all, but I was really disappointed he didn't win, especially with the run he had. But after that, he dropped back to a mile and 1,400, and he won those Group 3 races at the end of the season. So he's a horse that might be able to take
That next step.
So I'm looking forward to riding him as well. So they're probably...
And there'll be, of course, a handful of new horses coming through that'll just... One or two will jump out the ground.
Yeah, exactly. There are a couple of nice horses I won on for John Size at the end of last season as well. Helios Express and Golden Express, both owned by Larry Young, who's a very successful and influential owner there, and they look like they're going to continue on as well.
So what's with Hong Kong racing being obviously its own unique success story, obviously not just for jockeys but racing in general. Australian racing is not as successful now as it has been in the past, I think, in light of the fact that when I say it's not as successful, I should rephrase that. I should probably say they're looking to innovate a lot more. Some real funny, weird stuff coming out of Victoria, which I think they've knocked on the head. Whip rules are slightly different there than they are here. But one of the reasons I think that Hong Kong's very attractive to a jockey is, as you mentioned earlier, the tax rate and the percentage of prize money. I touched on it here a couple of weeks ago, and it got a lot of traction, most of it negatively. But you were one of the few riders that mentioned that, yes, jockeys should get 10%. When you speak to jocks, privately they all say yes, but publicly they're a bit scared to voice their opinion in case they get shouted down. If there was a 10% cut in Australia, would you come home earlier, or would you have left?
It certainly would make it more appealing for sure, because I did look at all the numbers when I was doing it, and not only do they only get 5% here and we get 10% there for winning, but then you got to pay 48.5% to the tax man here, whereas we only pay 16% in Hong Kong.
So it's a big difference.
It's a big difference, and actually the first 2 million Hong Kong dollars you make, which is probably about, the exchange rates now is 5 to 1.
5 to 1.
Let's just say 800 grand or whatever. No, it's not 800 grand. Just say
400.
Just say 400. Yep.
Yeah.
Is tax free. So you get 400 grand tax free, and then you're only charged at a small sliding scale up to 16%.
Yeah.
After that, so the tax over there is a big advantage as well. But I do think jockeys should get 10% for winning on a horse here. It'd give you more incentive. Not that they don't try and win anyway, but you get a better reward for winning than running second or third or whatever else.
Yeah, sure.
But we
think
put
it's
our
fair to
lives on
say-
the line every time we go out there. But I don't think people fully respect the risks that we take, and they don't ask us to take it. We choose to do that. That is on us. But it's jockeys are getting bashed up all the time. It's and they should be able to be successful enough to set themselves up for the rest of their lives.
Did you know this? I was talking to the Jockeys Association chairman, Tony Crisafi, the other day. He was telling me that there's a stat that on average 28% of jockeys in New South Wales will spend time in hospital in one calendar year. And currently this season it's up to like over 50% of jockeys are spending time in hospital.
Jeez.
So it's an interesting stat.
Yeah, that's
Look,
a
the money
big
doesn't
number.
stop. The money won't stop the injuries.
No.
But it certainly helps you. If you've got a bit more money, you can purchase income protection or some sort of compensation for it, because it's very, very limited.
Yeah.
But
So you see, trainers they have the ability to be able to set the charge.
don't go on about trainers, because trainers think that we're asking to take their money out of their pockets.
Yeah.
Which is not the case.
Yeah.
They still charge.
They're still going to
whatever
get their percentage. But what I'm saying is they get to set the charges that they charge the owners, right? So they sort of get to set their own fee in a way. And I know that goes to running the stable and all that sort of stuff, and they'd be making a very small amount of money out of that. But
funny you say that. Most of them say they don't make any money at all.
I bet they are.
Well, if they're not making any money,
they wouldn't be
should charge
running
a bit more.
They wouldn't be running their business at a loss. Put it that way.
Well, a lot of them that had a go at me, well, not a go, mentioned to me that they're it's a struggle for them.
I know when I was writing for Gay, she said to me that unless she's training Group 1 winners, she actually doesn't make any money. That was back 16 years ago.
So there's obviously a lot goes on behind in training that we don't know about as riders, and I probably will never know. But from where you sit, it's definitely something that should be considered.
Yeah, I think so, for sure. And I do feel sorry for trainers in the respect that a lot of their owners don't pay the bills, so they're left holding the bag a little bit, and that's really disappointing to hear. And it's obviously very frustrating for them, and I don't know, they've got to try and work out a better system, and I think the racing authorities now are trying to help them with that. And if owners aren't paying the bill, then
That's how it goes,
makes
isn't
it difficult.
Yeah, anyway, so look, mate, you're off to Hong Kong, tomorrow?
Yep.
Season starts, in a couple of weeks?
Yep.
Well, we hope...
try and get rid of this.
Have you put on a bit of weight?
I think this is the heaviest I've been in over a decade.
Well, you're 40 now, don't forget.
Yeah.
Are you going to take that sticker off your scale?
I know, I'm going to have to, right? But I don't know how I'm going to get the weight off in time. I'll probably have to ride heavy for the initial part of the season and then try and get it down as we go. But
I wish you all the best of luck.
Thank you.
I'm sure you hit the ground running like you normally do, and cheers to a new season.
No worries. Thanks, mate.
Cheers, mate. Thanks, Zach. Well, if you haven't already liked and subscribed, please do so, and make sure you keep watching.